Welcome to Getting Started with Garageband. For the purpose of this video, I am using Garageband version 10.3.2. So as soon as you open Garageband, you're going to be asked to choose a project type. And we are going to go ahead and click on the voice project to open a voice project. And this is the workspace for your voice project. And this workspace is broken up into several areas, and I will talk about those now. The top part is what I like to call the control bar. So that's where you've got your stop, play, timing, things like that. You've got your track workspace where you're doing all of your layering, of course. You've got this bottom space down here, which is your editing space where you can tweak all of your controls. And then on the left-hand side, you've got your library. And that's where anything, particularly if you're on your own computer, you can find like iTunes, your iTunes library and stuff should show up over there too. So there are a few things that you need to check to make sure that GarageBand is set up for success for you. First, you want to make sure that you've enabled the Quick Help button. It's this little question mark up in the top left-hand corner. I like to click this because if you're like me and you don't go into GarageBand all that often, or if you're an absolute beginner, this gives you some in-context help whenever you hover over certain buttons. So by clicking that, you can see that I've got these little yellow messages that pop up showing me sort of what things are. So it gives you some in-context help. If that is annoying to you, by all means, go ahead and just click that again, and it'll shut it off. Another thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you've set your timekeeper to keep track of time instead of beats. So you'll look up here at the very top. There's a little down arrow next to, and it's the display mode. Right now, it's set to do beats and project. I'm going to just go ahead and do time. Because for a voice project, we're very rarely going to need to keep the beat. I also always try to make sure that the metronome is off, particularly if not recording music and not needing to record a beat. And it's this little triangle next to the display menu. And then make sure that you select the correct microphone. So down here in the editing features, you've got your input. Right now, I don't have an external microphone plugged into my MacBook, so it is just defaulting to the MacBook Pro microphone. So I'm just going to stick with that. We always recommend that you have a nicer microphone, but for the purposes of this, I don't have one in there right now. And then you can always test your mic by choosing a track and tapping on the microphone itself or talking. You can see here, I've got the narration vocal track highlighted, and you can see that bar picking up my voice. So that tells you that your microphone is in fact working. Another thing you want to do is that you've selected the most appropriate track types for your project. So if you're doing a podcast, I would choose either a narration vocal track or a natural voice track. And to change the type of sound, you can select the track you'd like to change and click the appropriate track types from the sound library. You can always change that later if you find that it doesn't work for your recorded audio. What those things do is they sort of like automatically apply certain controls, and so they sort of pre-edit for you depending on what you've chosen. And then before I get started, I like to eliminate other tracks that I know I'm not going to need. So for a podcast, I know I'm not going to need 5 tracks. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click or click on each of these that I don't need, like robot vocal, and I'm just going to hit delete. on my keyboard. I know I'm not going to need the telephone vocal, not going to need the fuzz vocal, so again, I'm just deleting all of these. And then you may want to set up any advanced controls that are necessary. I sort of, sometimes like to maybe set the echo to 0 on a natural vocal track, or decrease the ambiance on a narration vocal. I would always try recording first with the presets just to see how it sounds, and then work on the controls from there. So you may find that you don't need to do a darn thing to any of those. So, those are a couple things that you can do if you do that initial recording and it's not quite exactly what you want. And then you want to make sure that you've added any additional tracks for external audio that you want, and you do that by hitting the little plus sign above the rest of your tracks. So I'm going to click on that, and I always just do a microphone. And this is just sort of a blank audio track, so it's not filtered or pre-filtered for any type of vocal. It's just a blank track that you can drag and drop onto. So recording in Garageband is fairly straightforward. All of your recording is controlled via the record, pause, and stop buttons at the very top, and you can play back your audio using the play button. Pretty straightforward. Anyone that has experience with like a DVD player or, Netflix has most of these controls. So when you're ready to record, you're going to go ahead and click on the track to select it, the one that you want to play on. And then you are going to press that red button. There's no countdown or anything. You press that red button and you begin recording. Just a tip. If you're recording a podcast, it can be helpful to record all of your narration into one clip and then cut and delete mistakes afterward. Rather than recording the same things again and again, trying to figure out which versions to sort of splice together, you get a different sound quality each time. You might have some different background noise, even if you just move your microphone a little bit, or if you move into a different room, or just from day to day and hour to hour, your voice sounds a little different. So I would recommend just recording all of your narration in one clip. And then when you're finished recording, you'll just hit the stop button. And you've got your clip. So once you find the song that you want, you're going to open your Finder, locate the song, drag it, and just click and drag it in. Okay, so now we've got our narration, and I'm going to go ahead and delete this other track here just to get it out of the way. So we've got our narration, we've got our background music. If you have used high quality audio in your project, you shouldn't need extensive editing to complete everything. But there are obviously a few tools and actions that you should know about, because right now, I've made mistakes in my narration. I have, music that is at its full volume and is going to drown out my voice, things like that. So we want to at least know how to, make cuts and lower the volume and do fades and things like that. So, to make a cut, you will click on the scissor icon up in the top left of your window, and that will open the track editor in the bottom of your workspace. So you will find and move your playhead to the place where you'd like to make a cut. So say I messed up right here, and I want to cut out this sort of little blip. Make sure that you have the correct clip selected, and then you will right click or hit Command T, and then that makes a cut, and then you'll move it to the other side of that little blip, and again Command T, and then you've cut this little blip out, and then you can just hit delete on your keyboard to cut that out. So that is how you will make cuts, and you can move each part, move them closer together. to fill the gaps. You can rename your tracks so that they make sense to you upon first glance. To do this, you're simply going to double click within that track, and it should give you a little text box that you can type into. And then you can also reorder your tracks by simply clicking and dragging them up or down. So if you want to always have what you're currently working on top. In terms of volume and audio editing, you may find that your audio has too much echo, or it isn't loud enough, or maybe you have background music that's too loud. So you're going to need some basic editing tools to help you improve your sound. So if you want to edit the volume of an entire track, this can be done by dragging the control on the volume slider left or right. If you want to edit volume on particular parts of your track, like for fading in and fading out, this can be done by following a couple of steps. So first, you have to enable automation. So to do that, you'll go up to Mix and Show Automation. And then you'll want to click on the track to apply a sound point. So see, you've got this little yellow line with a tiny little sound point all the way at the left. If you click on that line, continue clicking on it, you can continue to add sound points. You may have to double click it, so you can see me adding tons of sound points. It's not totally necessary, but yeah. And you can click and drag those down, up or down, to fade in or out. So say I wanted to start off, kind of strong, and then fade it real low when I start to talk. And you wouldn't have to do this if you shouldn't add that many sound points unless you really need it. Now I have to drag them all down by hand. So this is how you would apply a fade. So at the very beginning, it comes on at full volume, and then it fades down and continues to stay down. And you can just keep adding as many of those points as you want. So creating 2 sound points will allow you to add a simple fade in or out. You shouldn't need more than 2 if you want to just do simple fades. Obviously, creating multiple will allow you to adjust sound as you progress through the track, which is good if you need to lower the volume of background music for narration, but then sort of, fade it in and out in terms of volume. And then you just drag that sound point up or down to increase or decrease the audio at that particular moment. Okay, if you want to edit for echo and other problems, then you just want to make sure that you've got that... You click on the control button, Smart Controls, here in the top left next to the scissors. And you can revisit those to reduce echoes or background noise. So for podcasting, we recommend typically if there's an issue, you might need to lessen the echo or the ambiance, and the reverb might help your narration sound a little bit more normal. If you're ready to save and export, you will want to save both an editable version of your project by clicking File and Save As, and saving this as a Garageband project file. And then you will also want to export your file for sharing. And I think you click on, you click up here on Share, and you will export the song to a disk. And this will allow you to title it and then click on what file type you want. We usually recommend an MP3 file just in terms of size. You shouldn't notice any issues with quality being any worse, but that is a smaller file size. And then you can just keep it on high quality and you'll hit export, and then you should be good to go. If you have any questions, please feel free just to contact me, and I wish you good luck on your project.